Hey, filmmakers, welcome to the Q&A. Audiences, welcome to the Q&A for the program. Meanwhile, during lockdown part one, what a great eclectic mix of films, all part of the SF Indie Fest Indie Shorts Festival 2021. My name is Jason Wolos. I am the Films programmer, and we're lucky to have all these filmmakers here with us. Uh, Congrats to all you guys. Congratulations for making a movie. I'm a filmmaker too, so I know what's involved. And congrats for getting into the film festival. Um, so why don't we go around and introduce ourselves briefly? Because sometimes we get actors, producers, writers, not just the filmmaker or director solely, but tell us who you are, your role, the name of your film, and briefly, like an elevator pitch, like a synopsis, what your film is about, please. And I'll call you out as I see you here on the grid. John, if you don't mind, I'll start with you.
Yes, hello everyone. How are you all doing today? Appreciate you all being here. My name is John Jotaleaños. I am a white Chicano, Italian American descendant of Chumash Indians here in Santa Barbara. Many generations here in California. I'm a media maker, animator, concerned with history and decolonizing the future as well. Our film is called Les Hitons, which is not a French word, but it is what we call a post-real PSA that emerged from COVID-19 quarantine and the outgrowth of superstructures of capitalism, of monetized surveillance, of paranoia, white nationalism, this whole confluence of Q, BLM, January 6th, American extremism, and we made an animated short through the lens of what we are calling colony collapse disorder.
Excellent. Well said. Thank you. Hey, it
Oh,
just shows up.
I want to mention my co-director who just arrived here, Sean Nash here. So he's my co-director here, and we're both San Francisco filmmakers.
Right on. Go Bay Area. Good to have you, Sean. And hey, forgive me if I don't say your names correctly because I'm going by what it says in the the window here. Carrie, I'll go to you guys next. Please tell us your names and introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Carrie Lynn. This is Gabriel Gilder. Our piece is called Shelter in Play, and we are based in San Francisco. And what do you want to say something about ourselves?
Oh yeah. So yeah, our film is called Shelter in Play. It kind of reimagines public playgrounds that were closed during most of the pandemic, transforming them into kind of imaginary spaces for anthropomorphic shapes to inhabit, and just kind of taking a different look at some of the spaces around us.
It sure does. Thank you. James, I have you next on my screen.
Yes, hi. My film is called Pandemica. I am a director, producer, and film editor and educator here in New York City. I live in Brooklyn. During the initial stages of lockdown in March 2020, I, like everyone else, was stuck inside, and I was antsy to document what New York looked like in a time that we've never seen before. No one alive has ever seen New York so quiet, literally devoid of any life, any humans. And so when I went out to do that, I was enjoying capturing all of this stuff. But things took a drastic turn, obviously, after the murder of George Floyd and the incredible outpouring on the streets in his name, and so we went from complete nothingness, nothing happening, to the streets being filled with protest and energy. So I just want that. So the film at that point took a different turn. So I went out and captured that, and in a very just short little thing of 3 minutes, I just wanted to show lockdown and what this looks like, from emptiness to streets being filled, and the energy in that time.
And you did it well. Heather, you're next, please.
Hi, my name is Heather, and I'm the co-director of Hot Girl, co-director, co-writer, producer. I am a costume designer in Brooklyn, New York. And Hot Girl is about a day in the life of the character Mia, who is struggling with the perception of that people are taking of her on social media. And so it's her struggling through her relationships and trying to find out, you know, if she can do something differently.
Excellent. Thank you, Heather. Jake, if you would please.
Hi guys, I'm Jake. I'm the DP of Hot Girl. Good timing there. And I'm just, yeah, here to support and field any visual related questions, but thank you for having me, guys.
Thanks for being here. Excellent. Sean, I have you next on my screen.
Hi, my name is Sean Levon Nash. I'm a teacher of critical ethnic studies at California College of Art, and I'm the co-director with John, who I've worked with for many years. And usually we are known for political work or comedy, and it seemed irresponsible to make what everybody expected to make when this had all happened to us, you know, after a year and a half of like seemingly house arrest. And I feel like using the metaphor of bees and colony collapse disorder was the best way that I could talk about the potential dismantling and unraveling of our system as humans.
Yes, well done. And then Benz, thanks for joining us. We're basically just doing a quick intro. Your name, your film, and what your role is. You're muted.
There we go. Sorry about that. I'm not a Zoom person. Sorry about that.
All right. Welcome. Welcome.
And it's one of the things I think that inspired me to write this story is about the fact that I was worried when the first lockdown happened, what life would be like afterwards, because I just came out of a relationship as lockdown started. So, and because I'm really obviously bad at technology, I was wondering what the online dating scene would be like afterwards. And I just felt isolated from everyone. I felt very much relying, I used to rely so much on human contact and friends, and just the hug you give your friend when you meet them and when you say goodbye. So this film was just an opportunity just to explore some of that anxiety that I was feeling at the time. This is the first lockdown, so it was the first few weeks. I wanted to create something that was light and fun and happy. It's a rom-com, which is not my usual genre, but it was really fun to make and really fun to do.
Yes, it was fun to watch. And,
thank you.
I'm missing hugs. I'm missing handshakes even. I don't know about you guys, but one thing I'm doing normally now is the elbow thing is now my, forget handshakes and hugs, and I'm missing hugs. I tell you that much.
Yeah.
But anyways, one thing, as we can all tell, the underlying kind of connecting theme here is this historic event. Anyone heard of the pandemic? The COVID-19 pandemic, just it altered us forever. It's altered media forever. And these very eclectic group of short films, we have a short narrative, a rom-com, as you said. We have experimental, animation, music video, documentary, art, very wide, varied group of films here. Dance, all different, all fascinating. I enjoyed them all. And they all definitely capture and do a good job. I think this block does a good job of summing up this last year and a half or last 2 years. So well done. And this might seem obvious, but nothing's obvious nowadays. Maybe what I'm looking for is an exact moment, but what inspired you to make this film? Not just COVID-19 or whatever, but why'd you go do it? How'd you get off your seat and go and make it? James, I'll start with you.
What inspired me to make it was a little bit of boredom, and also a little bit of I'm born and raised in New York, and I've always felt this, not just a kinship, but like a romance with New York. And I kind of just looked at this city that I've always called my own and felt very close to, in a way that was, I had a lot of sadness, a lot of pathos for, and I wanted to somehow capture that. And like I said, when the shortly after going out there, which in itself was difficult to do at the time, because we were all like wearing hazmat suits. It wasn't yet, we didn't have like masks yet. Everyone was sort of tying things around their cloth around their face, and and it was in itself a kind of scary thing to just get out there. But then I think I was also so moved and inspired when I looked out my window and literally my block was encompassed by thousands of protesters in Brooklyn. And I went up to my roof and started filming, went out there and started filming. And I was just so inspired by the outpour. And then I was, for social justice and for racial justice and for George Floyd. And I was also just, shook by the difference. It suddenly, empty streets and suddenly full streets, and the emotional, what was being at play with emotionally. So those were all the reasons that got me out.
Carrie, I'm sorry, and what's your partner's name? I got it without seeing her. Carrie and
Gabriel.
Carrie and Gabriel. I'll remember. How about you guys? What? Quite fascinating experimental film there. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thanks. So I mean, in terms of inspiration, maybe similar in some ways to what James was just saying. We were kind of taking a lot of walks in our neighborhood and kind of passing by all these like playgrounds that were suddenly completely empty. And playgrounds are not really a place that we are. We don't like use them. So they're usually just places that we acknowledge are there, but we don't really spend a lot of time thinking about or looking at. And then all of a sudden they're completely empty, and especially when people kind of started going out to parks more, the playgrounds were still closed for the whole year. And so there was kind of like throwing activity surrounding these spaces, but then the spaces themselves of the playgrounds were still blocked off and taped off, caution tape and things like that.
Hey, if I can interrupt and just suggest to you guys, you need to move forward a little bit closer to the mic, because your mic is muffled somewhat. It's hard to hear. We heard you, but we got to be very silent otherwise.
Sure.
Gotcha.
So we just really wanted to kind of like take the opportunity to capture these, spaces while they were empty, and while we could really kind of think about the architecture within them and kind of like what they might represent.
Yeah, I guess I would also say like, I don't know, I think we kind of come at this from a little bit of like this visual art background. So it's very like, our process is pretty exploratory, I guess. Like, we don't necessarily start with that much of a, storyboard or script per se. So for us, it was very much a process of like, okay, we're seeing these spaces in this new way, and we want to capture that. We're not sure what we're going to do with it yet, but we start with that, and then we kind of tied in some strands that we had worked with on previous short films that we had made together, that had a little bit more of the like animation and these shapes and stuff like that. So kind of tying in those aesthetic elements and like finding a new way to populate these spaces that we were documenting with them.
Cool. I don't think I'll be able to look at the Mission Dolores playground the same in our neighborhood here. Hey, Heather, how about you? What sparked the film?
Well, my co-director Shannon came to me with a script. It was kind of bare bones, just more of a story outline. And I read it and I thought, we should do this. I'm not doing anything right now. It was in the middle, it was last August. So we were out of work and decided to get a great group of people together to kind of, pass the time and make something interesting about the human experience and what women are going through.
Yeah, well done. John, you want to tell us how you started? Where it all started?
Yeah, sure. Sean and I were out of the pandemic after being vaccinated, trying to sit in his backyard on 18th Street, trying to figure out how to to work, and after much discussion, we decided to make 3 films, animated films, and the first one would just be for us, and that was Les Idents, and we decided to do a remix of an old animation that Sean and our friend Tony Coleman had worked on about bee collapse, and kind of convert it into this new piece. And so we set a deadline for the summer solstice, and we dropped Les Idents on the June 20th of this year. And basically, what it was for some unknown reason, we decided to kind of adapt or do a parody of the French 1962 film La Jetée. I think it's kind of ridiculous in a lot of ways, what we did, but we had a great time doing it.
It just adds nice to the texture of the whole program, for sure. I was so happy when it came in towards the end of the submissions, like, hey, all right, I know where that's going. Benz, how about you? What was the initial start of your film, Spark? You got to keep your mic on there.
Just every single time. I sort of answered the question in my intro, but basically I was literally living on my own in my own place, cooking every meal, eating on my own, and that is, if you knew me, like, that is the opposite of my life. Like, I'm always socializing, out with friends, having friends over, and so to go from all of that to nothing, I noticed that the 2 guys that moved in next door just before lockdown, I only noticed one of them coming and going into his flat from time to time when I looked out the window. So one day I called out the window and I said, dude, do you want to have a drink? And anyway, we ended up having a drink, and long story, but he didn't know that there was an upstairs rooftop in our building. So I said, let's go upstairs, because he was a bit hesitant to go out into the park when lots of people were. It was early days and he was very cautious. So I ended up going upstairs. We went upstairs, and I showed him the view, much like the film. And turns out he's a filmmaker. and I said, well, I'm a filmmaker too. Dude, well, why don't we make a film? And he said, yeah, let's do it. So a lot of the incidents that led to me inviting him upstairs and having a drink and all that sort of stuff, a lot of that, I just said, why don't I write about this? So I went downstairs and literally wrote the script in a few hours, ran it past him. He liked it. Everything was going to be shot in our building. It was then just a matter of finding 2 actors. So the actual starting point was, I guess, a bit of boredom, but also it was an opportunity, like someone who a neighbor I'd never really spoken to much before. Now we're friends. We party together and we're having a good old time. But it took COVID to actually help break some of that sort of distance that we have even between people in close proximity.
Yeah. I've heard boredom and killing time as 3 inspirations at the moment, which we seem to have gained during the pandemic or the lockdown. Filmmaking is a challenge in general. But to maybe bring in Sean and Jake here, how did COVID challenge your creativity? How did it challenge making this movie, if it did at all? If not, then how does it challenge your medium, your creativity?
I'll jump in there. COVID-19, it exposed the fragilities of a lot of our systems, our political system, our educational system, healthcare, the prison industrial complex. When I think about some of the things we were doing before COVID, when we were all running around going to work and doing all this stuff and say, oh, well, we're going to fix it later. Talking to John about all those things that were happening, because we have these, terrible wildfires here, and so prison isn't an abstract thing. And my dad went to boarding school in Oklahoma, and he had brothers and sisters killed by disease on blankets. So I'm frankly totally embarrassed that I didn't know people weren't washing their hands. But every single semester that we do this, around midterms, around finals, kids start, going to the bathroom, talking on the phone, wiping their behind, putting it back in their face, not washing their hand. It's like, so this cycle of sickness, it's like one of these many ways that if we would have kept on going to work, we wouldn't have dealt with. And this time that we had to think about it was critical. Yeah. So that, all of a sudden we have this space. I started talking to John about this. He was like, Hermano, I just want to get back to making films, man. I just want to go to work. Challenging the creativity. It also gave us space to reconsider things that we might not have. And so looking at COVID as a gift, it's difficult.
there have been some benefits that have come out of it, like you've said, whether it's just to provide a little bit more time or reawaken things that need addressing.
Yeah, like people washing their hands. I'm teasing.
Yeah, simple things like that. Hey, Jake, how about you? Challenges making the movie or challenges that the pandemic provided?
I think, I mean, for me, I'd been in LA for the most of lockdown through all of 2020, and coming back to New York, I guess challenges, yes, is the same as everyone's challenges of just dealing with working on set within a pandemic. And I've already kind of been shooting a little bit before that, and I shot half of a feature before that as well. But for me, coming back to New York after pandemic, and Hot Girl is very much set. The pandemic is very much the setting of Hot Girl, not necessarily the theme of it. But for me, visually, being out in the streets of New York, which is my home, and seeing how people operated here as opposed to in Los Angeles was actually really inspiring to me. And just seeing the level of community still and out on the street. And it was in fall as well, so people were kind of a little bit more accustomed to this way of being. And visually, it was just, I was there with the new eyes, and it was a new space for me as well. So it was really inspiring to me, honestly, to be shooting in that setting.
Yeah, let me ask everyone then, like either as a media maker, a filmmaker, or just as a person. I'm just curious, connecting with you, another filmmaker. How are you different after the last year and a half? You doing something different? Are you exercising more? Do you have more ambitions? What's changed maybe? What's something that you're doing differently? John, how about you? Is there something that's changed?
Change is constant. I don't really know. It is. Hopefully there's some better change. We're looking for change. Can you spare some change? I don't know. I really, I want to throw that over to Sean.
Some people, like a lot of people moved, right? They just changed location. I don't know. I'm just curious.
I can pipe in here because I without getting into the full history, but married very, very young and separated at 25. For 20 years of my life, I have not been in a relationship, and I've avoided it, like the whole sort of serious relationship. And what was really interesting was that first lockdown, it lasted 7 weeks. Mm-hmm. I think I did change in that I realized that lifestyle is not pandemic friendly, because there are certain things, sacrifices that we need to make to build a bubble, to build a connection, and that connection can safeguard you, and you can work together. I've been very resistant all my life, and it did take this pandemic and those 7 weeks on my own to realize that I do need more than just just socializing. I do need someone I can. So I am actually now in a relationship, and I feel that it was probably very much it's a factor. I don't think I would have been ready to begin the relationship had those 7 weeks not happened.
Wow. James, how about you?
Well, I think if anything changed for me personally, I got things slowed down. And obviously, right. And it was an amazing, as a New Yorker, that's an amazing change. And what it offered me was an opportunity that I had never quite taken, which was to go a little bit more slowly with my craft in every way, whether that's writing, editing, devising stories, shooting. And I noticed that everything that I started to do felt more satisfying. It felt a little bit deeper. And as New Yorkers, especially filmmakers in New York who are working, we're always, there's a lot of work in New York in doing series and doing documentaries and it was like sort of this go cycle that I realized was in its own way, even though it's creative, is its own hamster wheel. And I think I was able to jump off that hamster wheel and really sort of find once again what was so satisfying about being creative.
Yeah, interesting. Gabriel and Carrie, you want to chime in this one?
Sure.
Have you changed?
Yeah. Well, like kind of definitely on a personal level, but during the pandemic last year, that's like right when we first started making the film, like I was pregnant, like with our baby. And so because of the pandemic, like Gabriel could not go to any of the prenatal appointments. And so whenever I would have these appointments, they would like check on baby's heartbeat. And because he couldn't be there, I was making all these recordings of the sounds on my phone. And so during the process of making this film together, every month or every couple of weeks, I would have these new recordings of our baby's heartbeat. And then we would constantly be like adding that into the mix of like the audio and kind of like using that to like create different parts of the sound for the film. And so it's like this kind of alternate way of like having this experience together is that, you know, I would gather these field recordings, you know, and then we would kind of utilize that as one of the materials that we were creating together.
Yeah.
But I think, like, honestly, in some ways, I don't know if a lot of what we've been doing has changed that much specifically from the pandemic, because like we don't typically have anyone else working on our projects besides us.
Yeah.
Right.
We do all the music and the shooting and the editing and all that stuff. So like we're just as isolated as before in that sense. Like,
It fit. How about you, Heather?
And then we had a baby, so then you're like, oh well, we're staying at home anyway.
And congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Heather, how about you?
I'd say 2020 overall was a great year for me. I changed a lot. I was able to mainly just slow down and take time. I was coming off of, as soon as the shutdown happened, I was working on the TV show Billions, and I was doing 12, 14-hour days for months, like not even taking weekends. And so getting the time that I hadn't had in years to just focus on my own creative projects. Hot Girl is actually my first narrative short. I usually make experimental videos. So I was able to make a bunch of those. I was able to write a screenplay. I was able to just really take that time, make it for myself, make it about myself. And
yeah, each one of your films could have easily been categorized into a different program, whether it be experimental or dance or narrative or doc, but there were just so many submissions related to this past year and a half. It was incredible that we could not have at least one program dedicated to the pandemic or the lockdown. It was interesting. A lot of recurring themes, and it's interesting how filmmakers kind of get into the zeitgeist, or the, you know, the what do you call it, the subconscious, if you will, of the whole culture. Jake, have you changed?
Oh yeah, I have changed a lot. I mean, same as Heather. I mean, slowing down dramatically. I was in the middle of making a movie, and we got shut down halfway through in 2020. So yeah, I mean, it's not that different than everyone else. A lot of time with myself, a lot of time with people I really care deeply about, as opposed to time spent spread out between lots of different peripheral social interactions. So it's been good, actually. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, there's been some pros
and hard. Yeah,
pros and cons. And Sean,
You know, you mentioned exercise. This can sound cheesy, but let me tell you, man, I'm much bigger than I was when this started. I ran into a student at the store who I think thought I went to jail or something, because apparently I've been working out that much. You know, and I started climbing.
You didn't gain. It's not from eating. It's from getting fit.
Apparently, no, I've been climbing a lot because I don't think that global warming is going to be gradual. I think that when a tidal wave comes, you better scurry up the goddamn building, like you know what parkour is. I'm teasing, but seriously, I take better care of myself. And also I realized that as a painter and a muralist, the stuff that I was making during the pandemic, it's like, I'm not putting that out. It's not pretty. It's not optimistic. It's not going to help. I don't need to brood and be all sad, but that's what happens when you're emotionally vulnerable, you know, and that's what the strength is.
Sean, that inspired me for this question. Do you guys think you're now like more eager, energetic to get your films out? You know, make more films about, you know, messages about the world, the ever-changing world?
Here's what I'll say about that is, you know, filmmaking is something that sounds really pretentious, right? And so a lot of times you want to, like, slow the roll. But the thing is that everything that held us back is going to propel us forward like a rubber band. When you pull it back, it goes forward that much faster. And I feel like the social responsibility to put work out there is much more pressing than it was before. And so I'm really excited about making work. I think that taking time off allows you to understand what's really important. And honestly, when you can't work for a year and a half, you start to wonder if you're good at your job. When there's no more microphones and you don't see a crowd and you don't even know if you're funny anymore, so it's like, I don't know, can I fucking do the stand-up or whatever it is? And I found that my favorite part was that John and I, after this, were working so fast. Apparently we did not forget how to do what we do, and we actually do it more efficiently. And so I'm really excited and optimistic about the future. I hope that for all the filmmakers that are in on this Zoom and everywhere else, that we feel similar, that time was good for us.
Yeah, well said. Good answer. Does anyone else feel more propelled forward, more energetic to create more vigorously? John, I'll let you go next since you're a partner with Sean.
Oh yeah, sure. We really kind of planned out the next 2 years for our filmmaking. We already have like grants in. We're doing our second film is going to be it's called White History Month, which is a speculative documentary, and then the third film is an animated documentary about the making of California from indigenous perspectives, kind of a larger project. So yeah, we are definitely propelled and motivated to get as much work as we can. As long as we're on this little spinning globe of ours. So yes.
Excellent. Who else would like to chime in? Go ahead and just jump in. I'll call names.
Well, I'm working on I had this short film that I wrote a while ago, but it's going to take quite a lot of money to actually make because it's set in an Italian restaurant, and it involves it's a bit of a mafia-based story. But I feel like this lockdown has made me pull some of these story ideas out of the cupboard and to relook at them and actually imagine that, what, I can actually do this now. I've made this short film, I can make another. So it has given me that. And I think also in terms of stories, I think life before 2020, I think we as storytellers had to work within the parameters of what our audiences would expect as realistic and normal. And I think the idea that the whole world would shut down for this period of time has now, I think, opened up opportunities for stories to be told that audiences will probably believe. Like we can be crazier with our ideas, and I think audiences will be more susceptible to those ideas being, potentially possible because of how ridiculously out of left of field this particular pandemic has been. So I think it opens up opportunities for us to take risks.
All right. And how about Heather and Jake, your productivity, your creativity?
I think for me, conversely to what I'm very excited to make work, but whereas before pandemic, especially as a DP, there's this kind of instinct towards quantity and just working a lot and this kind of stepping up thing. And for me now, I'm very much more inclined to take on less work and really foster meaningful collaborations and work from within that space, because I know that I don't have to do the quantity. I know that I will survive that, I know that it has been a hard year, obviously, but it's kind of a lesson in just choosing things very wisely and focusing on what's very meaningful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely lit a fire, I'd say, under me,
Are you going to go back to those 14-hour TV show days?
I did. I went back. I actually just finished working on Gossip Girl last week. We wrapped the first season. So I'm always looking for something else to do, but but right now I'm going to take it slow for a second.
Got it. And James, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I relate a lot to what Heather and Jake were just saying. I think we're, as fellow New Yorkers, we're all sort of on that same page of like, we work so hard, we work so many hours, especially when, even during pandemic, I did a film for HBO, a film for Showtime, and now a film for Disney Plus as producer, editor, a whole bunch of stuff. And I really relate to what both Heather and Jake were just saying, that like, I think for me, it's now like, it's being very, very picky and choosy. So I've actually turned down a lot of work for the next 6 months, which is crazy. I've never done that before, going out on a limb, but in the process, I just got a call to develop a series, and based on a feature doc that I did several years ago. And who knows what's going to happen, but this production company and I are developing this series, and I'm also working on, just like what I think a lot of people are saying, similar thing, working on several scripts, and so anyway, it's kind of, now it's the pandemic has really put right in front of my face, it's now or never. Like, this is what you've been wanting to do for 15 years, and here it is, it's right in front of you. Everyone has taken risks, everyone. People have lost loved ones, people have, we've seen death around us, like, it's right there. Sean was mentioning just this idea of like, scale a mountain, like global warming's coming for us. Like, it's not theory anymore, none of it's theory. So I really relate to what everyone's saying.
Yes, me too. I think our audiences can too. So speaking, you inspired me, James. What kind of emotion did you hope for an emotion to be evoked from your films? After an audience watches your movie, what do you hope they felt or feel? I'll start with you, James.
Oh, yes. Did you ask me?
Yeah, I'm going to ask all of you, but I'll start.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. I didn't know if you said my name. I guess what I was hoping audiences would feel would be some sort of kind of impact of the bigness of these two tableaus. This, to see New York empty is incredible, and then to see it filled once again because of the murder of George Floyd and the the hundreds of years of trauma of people of color. I think I just wanted them to feel that kind of bigness. And then at the end, I think what I wanted the takeaway to be somehow was a question of what happens next. It's in all of our hands.
And then Gabriel and Carrie, thank you, James. I'll ask you next. If you can keep it brief, just because your audio is suspect. But what did you hope audiences would see?
Sure. I think we wanted to capture a little bit of like melancholy, but also like cut that, I guess, with these sort of playful feelings, and not focus entirely on the sort of sadness of these spaces being empty, but sort of, kind of allow space for there to be playfulness and joy in there as well.
Yep. Carrie, did you want to say something real quick?
Really just similar to what Gabriel said, but just kind of like, I don't know, I was hoping that we would provide a way for people to feel kind of like the possibilities of what was being like shown, rather than just feeling kind of sad about it, and just seeing the possibility for like creative interpretations of that space.
Sure. How about you, John?
Yeah, I think that most, we kind of went into it thinking that, hoping that audiences would see the reflection of this confusing, complicated, and strange times that we're in this kind of frame of what is called the post-real. And I was looking over my director notes to Chicana queer voiceover actress Adriana Gordon, and it kind of sums up what we're looking for too, because we're kind of looking for this heaviness, but also the lightness. And it said, it tells her to read all the text with heavy, pretentious, dramatic French accents, à la jetée, and to even use the English and Spanish words in a French accent. So, for example, pendejo is read with French diction, bon de jeu, and told her not to be worried about correction. So the more ridiculous, the better. So we're, the absurdity of our situations and many dimensions of it was kind of the main kind of vibe of the piece.
Right on. Jake, hope an emotion evoked.
I'll let Heather respond first to this one.
Sure.
I'd say we really wanted to get a feeling of empathy for our main character, and kind of for people to realize that maybe their quick judgments of people could be different if they knew the backstory, knew the story behind everyone, you know.
Yeah, I think also there's the sense of reclaiming power at the end, which I think is very important. And the emotional arc, which also fits in with visually this arc of kind of more static, stale shots, and then at the end we go into more of a handheld sort of thing as she kind of reaches a breaking point and reclaims her power.
Excellent. Benz, what kind of emotion did you hope the audience felt?
Well, I mean, I wrote it as a rom-com, so hopefully a smile. You know, it's just it's not really a laugh out loud film, but it's more of a, you know, oh yeah, I know how that feels type comedy. But also, I mean, it's 16 minutes long. If it was designed to be comedy, it would literally have to have been probably about 5 minutes long. So I did also, when I was editing it, feel like this is more than just a, you know, punchline type story. I felt like, you know, it was nice just to see the slow progression of him initially being so protective and not wanting to catch, you know, the coronavirus, and having to sort of let down his guard slightly to allow this person who really wanted to build something with him into his bubble. And I think, you know, I wasn't to know that that was eventually going to happen to me, but you know, at the time I wanted to just sort of take a slow progression through. So hopefully people would feel emotionally sort of, you know, some sort of satisfied that with the ending, but also with a little bit of a comic tinge, I guess.
And Sean, any emotions to share?
You know, look, there's only two types of people left in the world: people who know they were affected and impacted by this, and people who think that they weren't. You know, and so part of being driven crazy wasn't just being stuck in your house. It was, we were bombarded by the most absurd media cycle I've ever imagined. I mean, like, it made me want to stop writing. I was like, I can't write this shit, man. Jewish space lasers? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, what the hell is going on? And so you think you're crazy and you can't bounce ideas off anyone. You can't go to a bar, you can't go to a restaurant, you can't be like, hey bro, you know, did you hear apparently there's space lasers? You know, so you start tripping out. Maybe I am nuts. Maybe this didn't even happen. You know what I mean? Maybe this isn't happening right now. And so I wanted the audience to feel like that they're not alone. You're not crazy.
Yeah.
You were very sane. You're not supposed to be okay right now. And if you think you're okay right now, you're just bullshitting yourself.
Excellent. Well, you know what? We got very little time left. And with that, though, I got to end on, because you inspired me, Sean, and maybe you can take this one. Anything you want to say to the audience, but in particular, I'm thinking to filmmakers, maybe in the audience, maybe like advice or just any words of wisdom or just compassion, anything you want to say to the audience out there.
Yeah, let me loop this back around to something Heather said a second ago about judgment, which is the death of humility. You know, one of the things that indigenous cultures offer is that humility, you know, and, you know, expectation being the root of suffering. You know, everybody needs to adjust their expectations because there is an answer. You know, gratitude is the answer. That's the antidote to this suffering. And so if we can be grateful for what we got, this is going to work out.
Well said. Well said. I'll let everyone take their 2 seconds to answer. Gabriel and Carrie, final parting words.
Gosh, I don't know. Be well.
Advice for filmmakers.
I don't know if we're in a position to give advice, really.
Advice, that's fine. John, how about you?
Oh yeah, I just echo what Sean said: gratitude, humility, social justice, awareness, and adelante. You know, let's create.
Nice. I should have finished with you guys. I should have called on you last. Ben?
I would say let people in. So I guess it does take the humility that's been talked about as well. But yeah, absolutely. I think opening up and allowing someone to come in close, whether it's a partner or whether it's obviously a filmmaker, co-director, co-writer, like co in front of anything is really, it's like COVID has actually taught us that one thing, that together we can do stuff, and trying to do everything on your own, even in filmmaking, is sometimes impossible, if not really, really hard, and not as much fun.
Yeah. Jake?
Yeah, I just want to first of all shout out Shannon Sullivan, because she's the co-director, co-writer, and star of Hot Girl, and she's never made a film before this one ever, and she has been an actor for a long time, but she just found inspiration in her own life and went for it and made it happen in the middle of a pandemic as well. So I think that advice to filmmakers is just go make something, just do something. Yeah, we can.
Great.
We can all do it.
Right on.
Literally what I was going to say, Jake, is just get out there and do it. Don't worry about the money. Don't worry about how you're going to do it. Just take steps to start, and then it all falls into place.
Very cool. James, last but not least.
Yeah, I would echo what Heather just said. I think what's amazing about this time is that we all have the tools to go make films, right? It doesn't cost a lot. We've got the tools, and the pandemic showed us that we can not only make these films on our own, we can actually release them on our own. And my hope would be that with all of that technology and with where we are now in this point of time, that we would also add to that what John and Sean were talking about in terms of humility, because it's sort of like we've gotten to this place with social media, like with Heather's film, where it's like everyone can put stuff out there. It's very me. How about let's keep putting stuff out there with this technology, but let's do it for all of us.
Right on. How about we? And with my last words, I'll use Sean. I'll echo Sean. Gratitude to all of you. Gratitude to our audience. Filmmakers, you guys are amazing. I wish I had more time to talk with you. You're all fascinating, and I could talk to you for hours. But it's been a pleasure what little time we did have together. Thanks for participating here. Congrats on getting into the SF Indie Fest, Shorts Fest program. And good luck to your film path, your whatever festival run you may have, or just your careers in general. It was a pleasure meeting you. Thank you so much for taking time. And hopefully,
congrats, everyone.
Hopefully I'll see you at the Roxy too. Some of your films, you'll be able to see them by real people in a real theater real soon at the Roxy. Right on, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
guys. Take care, y'all. Stay out of trouble.